Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show. I am Patrick Daugherty, joined as always by Denny Carter. I'm doing my best to sound buoyant and happy, but I'm devastated because I may have just watched the United States give away 2 points to Wales. And frankly, I'm angry. Before I say that, we're going to talk about all this week's top waiver ads, the fallout from the biggest news from week 11. But frankly, I'm angry about something I heard before the show.
Yeah. Tell me what it is.
I won't say what day this happened, but I was informed by Denny that he didn't watch a certain Stars and Bars USMNT see 2 points to the Welsh. And where are the dog levels for your country, Denny?
I don't get soccer. I don't get it. Okay, as a red-blooded American, I don't get. It's how do you say it? I'm trying to come up with it. It's boring.
Oh no.
I'm sorry. No.
Aren't you the one who plays golf?
Listen, I know what it is to find enjoyment in something that is boring, objectively boring. Okay, like me with golf. Like I can pretend golf is exciting now. So I understand that mindset. And I want to be of the mindset where I can push my glasses up the bridge of my nose and say, "Oh, the beautiful game! I love the beautiful game."
It's not beautiful in the U.S. plays it. I will say that.
I love football. I call it football because I pretend I'm European, but I can't. It's just I don't get it, folks. What's with soccer?
I know what you say about people trying to say European. I have a bugaboo, and a lot of good people do this. A lot of my close personal friends, probably some people I work with. I don't like when Americans refer to the United States as the States.
Oh, really?
That's how Europeans refer to it. No one ever calls it that in America until they go overseas. In America, you just call it like America. You call it like the U.S. No one ever calls it the States.
Absolutely not. No. Listen, the Europeans, they can say what, the States.
Yeah, they can say whatever they want.
Okay. But I police the language of Americans, and I will say that Americans saying the States is ludicrous.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's awful.
Yeah, you have to stop that.
Well, you have to stop. And I can see how some people think it's jingoistic just calling it America, since there's another America.
Yes, there are two. Yes.
There are other countries within North America even. But that's just our shorthand. You call it America. You don't call it.
I try to say the United States. It's a mouthful. The U.S. maybe. But please stop doing that. Look, here's the thing about soccer. I concede that when things are happening, it is exciting in that moment. Okay, when the goalie makes a save, that's cool. Okay, and then with the free kicks and the whatnot, penalty kicks, that's fine. I get the appeal of that, right? But man, the thing where they just kick it back and forth for like 45 minutes.
It's longer than that.
No, but I'm talking about 45 minutes with nothing, with no.
No, I know. Yeah, I knew what you meant. I meant it's longer than that. No,
yeah, I mean that's to me like someone saying, "Oh, I prefer the basketball of the 1940s where they would just pass it around their half of the court for 20 minutes and then get a basket." That's soccer.
Yeah, I'm just comfortable with sports where like the action happens in spasms for some reason. As you know, I'm a big baseball fan, and Denny just apparently too high T, needs the constant hits, the explosions, the 3-pointers, the dunks, the checks.
Yeah. Look, I watch golf, so I don't know how to square that with this conversation.
Well, golf, there's boring, and then there's golf where you can just like totally shut your brain off. It doesn't even matter. Like you're basically, I feel like when you watch golf, it's mostly just to see like the nice greenery in the background.
No, that's not. I don't care at all about what the course looks like.
That's why I watch golf, because I like the trees.
I actually do think that golf is the kind of sport where you have to play a little bit to enjoy and appreciate what's happening. Like I don't play much tennis. I've played tennis in my life, but I can't really appreciate what's going on that court the way that maybe you can or other tennis folks.
Yeah, I do love watching tennis. I do love playing tennis. I don't get to play nearly enough. My brother-in-law, we should start playing with me again. David, and golf those yet. And I can't really tell what Phil's doing here now. He's kneeling down on one knee, and the ball appears to be in some pebbles there, Glenn. And now he's talking to his caddy about it. Now he's bringing over a rules official, and Am I allowed to hit all these pebbles here? And that's golf.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're really into it, then you're watching for the guy in the bunker to see if he grounds his club and violates the rules of the game. And if they do and no one catches it, you call NBC Sports and you say, NBC Sports, I saw something happen on the course today.
I know. Did you know we're actually deputized if someone calls us and spots a rules violation on the Golf Network, which is owned by NBC Sports? We actually are we're required to get in touch with the PGA or the USGA or whatever and pass along the complaint.
Yeah, I just want to be clear. I've never done that, and I think it's ridiculous. But I do. I find it a funny part of golf culture.
By the way, World Cup available in Spanish on Telemundo. Own part of NBC Universal. Denny, also part of NBC Universal, is our NFL coverage, and the Broncos have been on some of that this year. And a player who was on the Broncos for some of this year was Melvin Gordon until he fumbled about 7 times too many. He was released on Monday, waived. Will probably be claimed on waivers because in theory, he's still a useful back. He's out. The Broncos are down to Latavius Murray, Marlon Mack, kind of an all-time in this economy backfield.
Right.
It's a down bad backfield for just a hellaciously down bad team. But you tell me, Denny, that Latavius Murray is one of the ads of the week.
Yeah.
I have to agree. It's probably true.
Right. You can't get around it. I mean, he hasn't been particularly good per the metrics, but
per the metrics, per the eye test, per the box score, per the vibes.
I've never watched the Broncos game, thank God. But yeah, he's available in 75% of leagues. I believe he will be the lead back going forward. Whether he gets the routes and the targets, I think that's probably up for grabs. The hope is that he gets some of that. I think the hope is that Latavius Murray gets all or almost all of the early down banger stuff, right? The goal line stuff, and then some of the pass catching work. And if he gets that, then I think, he has a path to RB2-ish viability. He still will be touchdown dependent. This is actually a Broncos team that has, we all know about the passing game struggles. Okay. That's apparent, painfully apparent every single week. But they also stink on the ground. 3rd worst EPA per play via the rush this year. So I don't see this as a huge thing for Latavius Murray, but you could do way worse if you can pick him up off the waiver wire this week.
We're getting some real immortal undead zombie RBing from Latavius Murray, who his career seemed over several times. But yeah, he popped up almost literally out of nowhere for the Saints earlier this season. It had 12 touches in a game. Then just as quickly as out of nowhere on the Broncos, it was the second time as a Bronco. It was actually the 3rd time as a Bronco. He had reached 14 carries on Sunday. He just seemed like the classic, kind of like Jamal Williams. He's a coaching staff back.
Right.
They're this Latavius Murray.
Coaching staffs love Latavius. The Saints loved him. I think the Raiders. Well, maybe the Raiders didn't, but
no, they didn't love him. They were the only ones.
Yeah,
they don't like good players.
I think maybe tells you something about that organization. But the goal line work is important because the Broncos are among the run heaviest teams inside the 10-yard line. Melvin Gordon, just for instance, this past week against the Raiders, he outsnaps Latavius Murray at the goal line. So if you strip away that and you give that opportunity to Murray, I think that he has a lot of touchdown appeal.
And so Murray, bye weeks are coming to an end soon. There are no byes in week 12. There will be some teams that make a claim on Latavius that might not have a ton of use for him, but knock on wood, this has actually been a year kind of low on impact backfield injuries. That second wave of RB2s that you usually get from the waiver wire just has not really materialized. And and you can't count on that to just materialize. I mean, injuries probably do increase as the season goes along, but he might not feel super inspiring on the waiver wire, but I do think you should be fairly aggressive with Latavius Murray Biggs. We're running out of time on the fantasy regular season, and knock on wood, we've been keeping players pretty healthy this year, and you could do a lot worse than Latavius Murray.
And also don't freak out, overreact, and drop Melvin Gordon. Hang on to him, see what happens, see how it unfolds. He could land in a pretty good spot, and he's not been good, but we're looking for some opportunity.
The good news is too, that move, I believe, was processed on Monday afternoon So the waiver claim should come Tuesday. So you might know, even before you put on your waiver claims, what Melvin Gordon's new team will be. Melvin Gordon has been real bad. Real bad.
Yeah. No, it's like at the bottom of like, yards after contact over expected, like all of the things that tells you like if a guy's overperforming. Turns out Melvin Gordon is not.
We'll have some more backfield ads to talk about later in the show. But Denny, are you saying the ad of the week? First off, you're breaking the rules because this player is 51% rostered. Would you say the ad of the week is the New York Giants' Darius Slayton?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, unless Joe Mixon's situation is more dire than we think. But yes, I would say Slayton has a huge opportunity here with Wan'Dale Robinson done for the year with an ACL. He has more targets than any Giants receiver since week 5. He's been targeted on about 22% of his routes, which, not fantastic, but that'll get you there. His target competition now, Pat, includes big names like David Sills, Marcus Johnson, and Kenny Golladay. So I think Slayton could get enough of the small pie. We talk about in the Giants passing game. It is a very low volume passing attack. Even when they're chasing points, they're still pretty run heavy. But I think that with Wan'Dale Robinson's injury, Slayton, those 5 and 6 target games could suddenly turn into 8 and 9 target games. That's a big difference. I for one, I will take it.
Yeah, it turned into a 10 target game on Sunday against the Lions. It was the first time since 2020 Darius Slayton had drawn 10 targets. And frankly, I've never quite understood why successive coaching staffs, like soured on Darius Slayton so quickly, because we know he can do damage down the field. He seemed like he had added like an intermediate and even like short element to his game. Maybe he's like, at best, he's someone who should be like a number 3 receiver, but he can soak up looks. And we know that he has big playability if he gets enough looks. And where else are these looks going to go? You mentioned all these pass catchers. I can't believe you didn't mention Isaiah Hodgins, Denny.
Is it Hodgkins?
No, it's not. It's Hodgins. And you didn't mention Lawrence Cager, although you did mention him on the phone earlier.
Lawrence Cager is a tight end.
He is tight end and wide receiver eligibility on Yahoo, though. Did you know this?
I didn't know. The interns did not tell me that.
No, I didn't tell you. But
so I'm embarrassed.
You said you were going to give us some sicko names, and you didn't get nearly as sicko as you could. Is there a secondary Giant ad, or is it just Darius Slayton? And the answer can be there is no secondary.
Yeah, no. I mean, it could be Sills. Sills runs a lot from the slot. Wan'Dale Robinson was operating from the slot. I will say that Wan'Dale
David Sills, is he still playing? Did he get a target this week?
I actually don't.
Are we passing out fake news on David Sills? No, he's still on the team.
Yeah,
he's still active.
I mean, he
seems to be behind Richie James, though, Denny.
Yeah, right. And we know how Richie James goes. When everybody picked him up, it was completely not used. I mean, Richie James is a name. He is a guy on the Giants. But I do think, Slayton's target profile is totally different than Wan'Dale Robinson. So somebody is going to have to take some of those short area targets. Maybe it's actually Saquon Barkley now that I think of it.
Yeah, I would say there's no second ad after Darius Slayton, and it's just kind of chaos.
That's probably the answer. Yeah.
It's just chaos behind him, and we don't really know how that will shake out. I mean, maybe our guy Isaiah Hodgins just really steps up. So we're going to take an early break because we have an important message for you. Release the Hounds. It is a Thanksgiving tradition like none other. The National Dog Show presented by Purina. Thousands of dogs, Denny, compete for the title of Best in Show Thanksgiving at noon Eastern on NBC and Peacock. Well, you're going to talk about dog levels, just off the charts.
Huge dog levels, and that brings us to.
It's a poor transition because I don't think Samaje Perine really has like super high dog levels.
No, but he does have the love and adoration of all coaches.
He does, because pass catching is not really like a dog level trait.
No.
He does a lot of that, but dogs, they score touchdowns. And Samaje Perine scored a lot of those in week 11, Denny. Joe Mixon in the concussion protocol. His status for week 12 is unknown.
Yeah.
What's the lay of the land for Samaje Perine?
Yeah, Samaje Perine, someone I have mentioned in the waiver column most of the past like month or so, just in case, because
tried to fire you every time for it.
Right, and thankfully the Supreme Court stepped in over and over again, and I appreciate that.
Shouts to Justice Alito, keeping his job
for helping out there. Yes, I will say Perine doesn't profile as like a workhorse, but he is going to be the lead back here if Mixon is out. He's obviously in the protocol. You know, I'm a little skeptical of the protocol, but after the Tua disaster, I think we have seen and we will continue to see teams be pretty conservative, even with star players like Joe Mixon. Perine, I will go out on a limb and say that he's not going to score multiple receiving touchdowns every week.
Now Bengals running backs, all they seem to do is score 2 to 4 touchdowns every week, though.
It is true. The analytics are wrong on that so far. But the route involvement, which you saw a lot of in this past week when Mixon went out, the fact that the Bengals offense has really changed with Jamar Chase out here. Lots of checking down to Hayden Hurst, to Perine, to Mixon. Mixon's receiving profile and overall fantasy profile is tremendous with Jamar Chase out. And that was clear from the first game where Chase was sidelined, and he had that huge game against Carolina. He finally was able to convert some of those expected fantasy points into real fantasy points, which we love to see. So Perine
happens very, very infrequently.
Right. We're looking into whether that can happen for Deontay Johnson. We might have something on that later. But so Perine should be picked up. I think in every 12-team league. And if Mixon is out, he's a PPR RB2, I think.
Should be picked up, but I think Latavius Murray should be the priority because Joe Mixon does have a full week to get cleared.
That's right. The
Titans the Bengals are playing the Titans in week 12. A number of variables here in this game. Jamar Chase should hopefully be back for Sunday's game against the Titans. The Titans bleed passing game production. Like one of the teams, they're a pass funnel. You pass on the Tennessee Titans, pretty tough on the ground. They're like bottom 7 or 8 and running back fantasy points allowed. So Perine is a must add because he could have value, but another guy where it's pretty uncertain. It's going to be an uncertain situation on Tuesday evening when you're making this move. You won't get the first Bengals injury report update until Wednesday. And if Joe Mixon's limited on Wednesday, Joe Mixon is probably playing on Sunday. So you take Perine because it could be an RB2 situation waiting to happen, even in a tough matchup. But we're comfortable saying that you prioritize Latavius Murray, correct?
Yes, for sure. For the long-term outlook, the fact that Mixon might play, yeah, I think that's right.
So you mentioned elsewhere for the Steelers, who we were just talking about.
Yeah,
Deontay Johnson, George Pickens. The expected fantasy points, they're not going to materialize for Deontay Johnson.
They're expected, yet they're nowhere to be found.
Exactly. We put the UN's been looking for him,
right?
Forever.
And we need more good people looking for those points. Here's what I tweeted the other day. Deontay Johnson is 10th in expected PPR fantasy points among receivers. 10th. Okay. Like his opportunity has generated what could be a top 10 fantasy season. He is wide receiver 48 in actually converting those points. Now that was before week 11. I don't have those updated yet, but yeah. So basically he's like close to unusable in 12-team leagues. Deontay Johnson now has back-to-back games with 5 targets. This is a guy who has trouble getting there for fantasy with 10 targets. So the 5 targets, not going to cut it. Might as well be 0 targets for a guy like Deontay Johnson, who produces nothing after the catch, who is not targeted.
Deontay Johnson, to take your joke, will never gain a yard after the catch.
He will never. In fact, he loses yards after the catch. He has this thing where I'm sure a Giants Steelers coach is crazy. He catches the ball and he immediately just starts running backward.
He does. He's one of the GOAT backwards runners for sure.
And he thinks every time he's going to run 6 to 8 yards backward and then turn it around for a 15-yard gain. Here's how many times it's happened. It's never happened for Deontay Johnson. No. He keeps trying it. It would be way better. He'd be a way better receiver if he did what Zach Ertz does, which is catch the ball and you sit on your butt. So anyway, George Pickens.
Yeah, so George Pickens, he out-targeted Diontae Johnson for the first time in week 11.
Yeah.
He had a 33-yard catch. He became the first Steeler to score a touchdown longer than 20 yards in the 2022 season. Real big day for the Steelers offense, Denny. Pickens had been building towards surpassing Diontae Johnson. It kind of looked like maybe he had surpassed Diontae Johnson against the Bengals. Has he surpassed Diontae Johnson?
Well, we have to remember one thing about George Pickens' game against the Bengals is that he could have gone nuclear. He dropped a 49-yard touchdown.
I actually did not. Are you for real?
He dropped, yes.
Because I was starting him in a distance scoring league, and I may or may not have not needed to hear that.
Listen, as someone who had Pickens and Pickett in one seasonal league, it hurt. It hurt a lot. Okay, it hurt a lot. As in, I projectile vomited all over when that happened.
Oh dear.
Yeah, wasn't. It took a while to clean up. Anyway, the Pickens, it could have been great. 83 yards. On 4 catches. He did actually score a touchdown. I know I'm talking about this touchdown he didn't score, but he could have gone through the roof. He doesn't separate, but that's okay because it seems like Kenny Pickett,
dogs don't separate, they go up and get it.
It's actually I feel like it's like that that tweet about like wanting to grind harder. Like, I'm not going to separate because I want to grind harder for these catches. Like that, like I'm going to intentionally keep the defender close to me to humiliate him. And that's what he does. He made a great sideline catch in the fourth quarter. He only saw one more target than Diontae Johnson. So I feel like saying it's a changing of the guard is a little much, but you have Pat Freiermuth with 12 targets here against the Bengals. So Diontae Johnson's third in the pecking order. Also, the kind of targets that Pickens is seeing are just way, way more valuable than Diontae Johnson. So I don't know. You're the ranker in chief. Are you ranking Diontae Johnson below Pickens?
This will be, I'm doing it for sure. I can't remember what I did last week, to be honest, but I will be doing, I think I had Pickens ahead of Diontae even in week 11. I'll be doing it for sure in week 12. I mean, it kind of seems like Diontae sort of seems like a situation where you finally cut the cord. Then he's going to have 10 catches for 111 yards, but I mean, we're going on 11 games with 2 different quarterbacks. Just hasn't been there. I mean, he's been over 50 yards like one time in the past 6 or 7 weeks.
Right.
Just not an efficient player, not an explosive player. He's a mistake-prone player. Not, in addition to, just going backwards and losing yards, which he really does do with alarming frequency. The drops remain an issue. And George Pickens seems to be like a better player than Diontae Johnson. And is providing something that no one else in the Steelers can with his downfield ability. Pat Freiermuth now is competing, for these intermediate and short targets with Diontae Johnson, where he's like lost a monopoly on what he does. And maybe Diontae will still have, there's going to be weeks where Diontae outpoints George Pickens, but their floors are almost identical at this point. And whereas Diontae Johnson does not have a ceiling, George Pickens very much has a ceiling. And I think it is time to make the permanent change in the rankings.
Here's something I just found on Next Gen Stats. So they have a stat called yards after the catch over expected. So it's like how much a guy is producing after the catch, like more than you expect. Dallas Goedert is near the top. You have some other tight ends, Deebo Samuel. It makes sense, right? You go to the very, very bottom of the league and you find 2 guys, Diontae Johnson and George Pickens.
Ooh, even Pickens.
So
nice.
They really don't have someone who can catch the ball and then go and then break a tackle and go. Now George Pickens might be able to do that.
I think he will be that guy if he gets more frequent opportunities to do so,
and more intermediate opportunities. Because really, like those bombs over the top of the defense, that's not where that's going to happen usually, especially if it's like near the end zone. But so the Steelers need playmakers. I think is what we're getting to.
Speaking of someone who can make plays down the field, Denny, number 12 overall pick, Jameson Williams, was drawing Tyreek Hill comparisons at Alabama last season. Then he tore his ACL. It didn't hurt his draft status, but he has not played this season, as evidenced by the fact that it's week 12. And he has just now been cleared to practice, but he has been cleared to practice. He has 21 days to get activated. Stands to reason a player who was just activated, who was just cleared to practice, will not be activated for Thanksgiving against the Bills.
Right.
But they have a really, really soft stretch run schedule the Lions. The Lions have not been getting any downfield production with DJ Shark and Josh Reynolds just in and out of the lineup. It is Jared Goff, but buys are ending. We know this is an offense that doesn't want to pass like 30 to 35 times a game. But are we adding Jameson Williams in 12-team leagues? Let's start there.
I think so. I have to say that I am having a hard time getting excited about Jameson Williams in this offense because for a few reasons. Is he an exciting player? Yes, of course. And I think that he has a bright future in the league. This team already has an established wide receiver one in Amon-Ra St. Brown. DJ Chark is coming back. And I know that might be funny, like, oh, DJ Chark, but he is the downfield guy. That's what
he was back in week 11 and was kind of a ghost.
Yeah. Right. And that's what it's going to be with DJ Chark. It's going to be nothing or a little something. You also have Jared Goff, who is not really known for his aggressiveness. No. Per Next Gen Stats, he's 28th in passing aggressiveness this year. The Lions are 21st in pass rate over expected. I'm looking at Goff. Yeah, Goff is 19th in the rate of attempts over 20 yards this season. So I really struggle to see like a path to confidently starting Williams in 12-team leagues. But I guess you do probably need to roster him.
You probably just need to roster him because here's the schedule beginning in week 13, throwing out week 12 against the Bills. It's versus the Jags, versus the Vikings, at the Jets, which is kind of a tough one during the fantasy playoffs, and then at the Panthers versus the Chicago Bears in fantasy championship week. And I know it's kind of hard to look that far ahead because you're nearing the stage of the season where you need to optimize your roster for every week instead of like fantasizing about week 17.
Yeah.
But he's the kind of player, one of my favorite kind of cliches to fall back on, like a cliche that I've created. He's the kind of player who can flip a matchup on only 2 or 3 targets. Like he give you a 0.0, but Jameson Williams is the kind of player who can have 2 catches for 61 yards and a touchdown. And that can flip a matchup. If your choice is like Robert Woods or Jameson Williams,
Sure.
So he does have some upside. He might be the kind of guy you go out and take a flyer and you drop immediately, either because he might not return as soon as expected, or he's only going to play 10 to 12 snaps.
Right.
So you can have like some excitement. Yeah, you need to keep your expectations really low for Jameson Williams. But 14-team leagues for sure, 12-team leagues. I mean, yeah, you're probably adding him, but just you can dream, but also be realistic.
And they're going to have to ease him in and everything. Like he's not going to like come out and run 100% routes or anything. It'll be a process.
Yeah, Denny, I have German heritage. I think I'm channeling with German for dream, but be realistic. Do not dream.
It sounds very German.
The first way to be disappointed is to dream. The first way
on to the next.
Speaking of dreaming, Denny, we've been dreaming about Treylon Burks all year. He comes off IR, immediately catches 7 of 8 targets for 111 yards. Yeah. Starting to look like that dude was that and dude being capitalized for the Tennessee Titans. Denny, 51 yards were kind of like a game-sealing catch that was kind of unusual, a game situation.
I love that.
I know.
Love that. And I think the Packers were mad.
They were. I was extremely mad when the University of Tennessee did it to University of Missouri 2 weeks ago, by the way. You're winning 59-24. I mean, what you trying to do? You trying to embarrass these kids? Trying to embarrass these kids? I hope.
Well, that's different. Yeah. That's 59-24. Yeah.
Josh Heupel, all I can say is ball don't lie. Look what happened the following week. You're out of the playoffs.
But it's funny. I feel like it's pretty fun. It's pretty funny that like the Titans were like, we're going to try to get a first down to seal this game. And the Packers were like, how dare you?
Yeah.
What do you do? What are you doing? You're trying to easily get a first down. You're supposed to grind it out with Derrick Henry 3 times up the middle. And if you don't get it, then you have to give us the ball back. That's how this is supposed to go.
The extremely formal world of NFL football.
And they just chucked it. They were like, nope, we're not going to do that. We're going to throw it straight to Treylon Burks. And I was obsessed with that play. Very good play.
Is he the ad of the week at receiver, or is it Darius Slayton? Is it someone else? Who's the ad of the week at receiver?
It's hard to distinguish because both of these offenses are not going to provide many fantasy friendly environments for their receivers. Against the Packers last week was a little different. First of all, the Packers are a slight, pass funnel. The Titans leaned into that. I have a really hard time seeing that as like the new norm, but Burks, his route participation was fine. Although Nick Westbrook, Akine, and Robert Woods both ran 6 more routes than Burks, but Burks led the team in targets, led the team in yards. He clearly is the downfield guy. So I think just his profile, like we know what Darius Slayton is. So yeah, I could be talked into Burks being the pickup of the week.
Because I think the volume, there's not much volume in this passing offense, but I think it's clear where the volume needs to go and will probably go. I mean, Robert Woods is at a whole season to like carve any role, and he just cannot do it.
So, right, and this is what we had with AJ Brown when he was a Titan, is that the team operated in the same fashion. It was Derrick Henry all day. It was we're not going to pass unless we absolutely have to. But he got a big enough piece of the pie that it counteracted that, and so 35% target share was enough for him, to be a really good fantasy option. I don't think Treylon Burks is going to step into a 35% target share, but you don't need that from him because he's going to be, your wide receiver 4 if you're in a league that starts 4 receivers.
I would probably just slightly prefer him to Darius Slayton, just because whereas he's a first round pick in ascendance, Darius Slayton is a guy, it seems like over and over and over again they find excuses not to use him. Maybe they're finally out of excuses.
Yes, right. I have to say though, the Giants and Titans are both. Yeah, the Giants are 4th, have the 4th lowest pass rate over expected. The Titans have the 5th lowest. So they both definitely want to establish it, but I could be talked into Burks. Yeah.
You throw that bomb to get to 66 points, Josh. That's nice. I bet that's real cool. And then the next week you give up 63 to South Carolina. All it's on. The ball doesn't lie. Karma is real, Josh Heupel, and you will not embarrass these kids. They work so hard, and you will not embarrass these kids.
That's what happens when you beat down Missouri.
It's just distasteful. It's just distasteful. It would be distasteful to not take a break and return right after this. Just a reminder, if you don't have the NBC Sports Predictor app, go download it now. The contests are free and easy to play, and you have a shot to win thousands this weekend by predicting what will happen in the World Cup, college football, and the NFL. Speaking of the NFL, there will be 2 opportunities to win $100,000 this week by playing Sunday Night 7. Your first chance is guessing the outcome between the Patriots and Vikings on Thanksgiving night, followed by another contest surrounding the Packers and Eagles in Philadelphia on Sunday evening. And don't forget, download the Rotoworld app to receive breaking player news all season long. Stay ahead of the competition by favoriting players on your roster. Get the latest injury updates, player news, and much more delivered right to your phone. It's available in your app store today. See, Denny, you didn't watch the United States defending its honor against Wales on Telemundo in Spanish. Are you at least going to do it on Friday when we take on England? We spent centuries escaping their yoke. We don't want to be back under their boot. So you're going to watch us beat England on Friday?
I don't know. As a big fan of English rock stars through the decades, it's going to be a close call, Pat.
You got to watch USA England in Spanish on Telemundo, but we're here in English talking the NFL, Denny. And Kyle Pitts, injured reserve, torn MCL, probably won't return this season. Talking about another team whose pass rate over expected is always quite low. What is the fantasy fallout, if any, from Kyle Pitts landing on IR?
Well, I know this sounds funny, but his role in the Atlanta offense was in the same ballpark as Cooper Kupp's in the Rams offense. I know that the production wasn't quite the same, but
just a little off.
It was just, you're right. It was just slightly different. But we're talking about Kyle Pitts since week 5 has the 10th highest weighted opportunity rating among all pass catchers. Now that takes into account both air yards and target share. Okay, so it's a really good measurement of a guy's domination of the throws in the offensive pass attempts. And Kyle Pitts had it all. Look, all of his underlying stuff says that Kyle Pitts is actually really good. And I know that that's hard. That's a hard pill to swallow for those who drafted him in the 3rd, 4th round or whatever. And you've had a terrible season and your team is long gone. No playoffs for you. I get it. I will say, don't give up on him, because like everything points to him actually being an elite option. It's just, he's just in this horrible offense. This is, Drake London, I think instantly will soak up some of those targets and air yards. And a guy named Olamide Zaccheaus, which I didn't anticipate talking about Olamide Zaccheaus on this podcast.
You're veering dangerously close to cut his mic territory.
Yeah, I figured, but I had to say it, because Zaccheaus, for whatever else he's doing, is a locked in part of 2 wide receiver sets for the Falcons. Basically, if you look at route running data, especially since about week 4, it's Drake London, Zaccheaus, and basically nobody else no other receiver running routes for the Atlanta Falcons. I guess Zaccheaus probably becomes the number 2 pass catcher in this offense, since Cordarrelle Patterson has been curiously phased out of the passing offense.
Yeah, it seems like they're really trying to ration Cordarrelle Patterson's touches and keeping him more like the 10 to 14 carry range and not involving him as much in the passing game. It is curious. You do wonder, you're losing some high value touches with Kyle Pitts. Maybe you will funnel them to your best leftover playmaker, right, in Cordarrelle Patterson. Drake London had cleared 5 targets 3 straight weeks before this Bears debacle, where he only had 1 catch on 3 targets. Thankfully, the catch ended after 2 yards in the end zone, so he did score for the 2nd straight week. But 6 to 8 targets seems like a pretty safe assumption for Drake London. That's enough to kind of keep him in like the wide receiver 30 to 40 range, so like low end wide receiver 3, high end wide receiver 4. Maybe shores up his floor a little bit. Ceiling games just don't exist in this offense, though. And
no.
Beyond CPAT and Drake London, beyond Olamide Zaccheaus, I don't think you look there. You definitely don't look like Damiere Byrd. Parker Hesse, we'll probably hear that name when we're having like really, really demented DFS conversations.
That's a sicko play. Yeah. But Hesse was actually running more routes than Pitts at one point this season.
He was.
Like, Pitts was being asked to stay in to pass block.
Oh my God.
That's the darkest timeline right there, is being like, Kyle Pitts, I need you to block this linebacker blitzing, please.
Truly the darkest time. So get ready to hear Parker Hesse's name, at least in like showdown games in DFS.
I'm gonna be all over Hesse. And
I know the Falcons might not have any primetime games left. They might not really have any showdown.
Well,
left.
Here's the thing, Pat. You can play showdowns no matter what.
I know.
And I play 1 o'clock showdowns. My sickness is real.
Yeah, that's a real sickness. That's a problem. You cannot be playing 1 p.m. showdowns.
Please help me.
Speaking of 1 p.m. showdowns, we're playing Skyy Moore and all of them going forward, aren't we, Denny? 5 catches, 6 targets, 63 yards, all new career highs.
Yeah.
After Kadarius Toney's hamstring tightened up yet again. Kadarius Toney's hamstring will win every time, Denny. You might think you can outrun it, but you can never outrun the long arm of the Kadarius Toney hamstring law. I say Skyy Moore is back. You say Justin Watson never left.
Well,
what's happening in the Chiefs receiver corps?
It's different. Okay, it's the same but different. Against the Chargers on Sunday night, great game, by the way. And by the way, who didn't know that that's the way it was going to end? I know. As soon as the Chargers scored, you see Justin Herbert pumping his fist. Yes. I'm like, why? You guys shouldn't even be celebrating.
Yeah, no, they actually should have been dejected.
Like you just lost. Like, you scored a touchdown and you sealed your fate. Like, you can't give a minute 45 to Patrick Mahomes. It was over.
Utterly ridiculous. Yeah.
Anyway, So Justin Watson with Mecole Hardman and Juju Smith-Schuster out this past week. He led all Chiefs receivers in pass routes. And only saw, he was targeted on about 11% of those routes, which is not great. Now Skyy Moore only ran a route on 41% of Mahomes dropbacks, which is not fantastic. But here's the thing. He was targeted on 38% of those routes, folks. So, that I think that is an indication that they want to get him involved in that he can get open. He was used. He ran about half of his routes from the slot and half from outside. The usage was good. Now, will it keep up with Hardman coming back and Juju eventually coming back? I don't think so. Like I don't think that it was like a breakout performance where the team's going to be like, well, now we got to play Skyy Moore all the time. I think they're very comfortable with this rotation, with just using the receivers who have favorable matchups in that week. And good luck to fantasy managers guessing who that will be.
So yeah, Mecole Hardman will miss at least 3 more games, but Juju Smith-Schuster probably coming off the injury report this week with his head injury. With the missed week 11 with the concussion, have to assume he'll probably be back for week 12. Skyy Moore, as much as half of our audience is probably waiting for Skyy Moore confirmation bias, it's going to need to be more than one game of him playing moderately well.
Right. And Kansas City actually used a lot of 2 tight end sets, to compensate for their lack of starting receivers. So that's something else to keep in mind when you're if Juju's out again, if obviously Mecole Hardman will be out. So just keep that in mind.
Keep an eye on that Chiefs receiver core, as I try to find our next topic. Speaking of the Chiefs receiver core, Denny, Demarcus Robinson used to be in it. Now he's apparently leading the Ravens receiver core. You had an explosive Lamar Jackson comment you thought went unnoticed a few weeks ago, because Demarcus Robinson coming off just the second 100-yard game of his career. He's had at least 6 catches for 60 yards, 2 of the past 3 weeks. Are we down bad enough to be adding Demarcus Robinson off the waiver wire?
Yeah, I don't even think you have to be that down bad. Look, Devin Duvernay has 2 targets over his past 2 games, okay? And he's running basically 100% of the routes. Like, he's just not part of the offense. One of those games was without Mark Andrews, so I don't even know what to say about that for Duvernay. Demarcus Robinson, there was a comment by Lamar Jackson after the Saints game. The Ravens beat the Saints. Lamar did have some struggles through the air. They mostly just established the run in that game, which is fine. I mean, it worked out. I'm not mad about it at all.
Free country. If you want to, it's the way you want to live your life.
You want to do the inefficient offense, you do it.
You want Justice Hill for some reason to still be getting touches. It's America. Last time I checked.
Can we not criticize Justice Hill on air? I mean, Justice Hill is they're probably their best player overall.
Demarcus Robinson.
Well, Lamar Jackson said after the game, he said, "I wish that I had targeted DeMarcus more." And I thought, I told Pat before the show, I said, I heard that and I said, okay, I gotta jot that down. I got to mention it on the podcast. Here's what I didn't do, folks. I didn't jot it down and I didn't mention it on last week's podcast. And I didn't even play DeMarcus in DFS, which is just a huge oversight.
Comprehensive system-wide failure.
Yeah, no, really, truly. But 9 targets, 9 catches, 128 yards. And I think that this can continue, not 128 yards every game, but it can continue because Mark Andrews is the clear focus of every single secondary that plays the Ravens. They know how this Ravens passing offense has succeeded and how it will succeed. And it doesn't have anything to do with Devin Duvernay or Demarcus Robinson. Therefore, both guys should find themselves open. Obviously, Lamar Jackson is kind of fixated on getting it to Demarcus. I covered that game for us. And although it was a horrible game, it was tied 3-3 at the end of the third quarter. Lamar Jackson had what looked to be a lot of first read type throws to Demarcus Robinson. It wasn't him running around making something out of nothing and hitting Demarcus Robinson. It was a planned thing, and I think that's good for Demarcus Robinson.
So Demarcus Robinson is worth an ad. This knock on wood, thankfully, we're not getting we're not getting injury based ads. You kind of just got to seize on anyone who's getting targets. Demarcus Robinson is getting them, and it does not seem to be a fluke. Devin Duvernay is just a gadget player.
Right.
Another, you claimed to me you want to talk about Juwan Johnson. I know people are trying to make this a thing.
Look, I've been screaming from the rooftop. I've been arrested twice actually for doing that because I've wanted people to pick up Juwan Johnson. He had another touchdown this past week. Of course, look, I know touchdowns are fluky, volatile, very hard to predict, but Juwan Johnson has become the primary red zone target for Andy Dalton in this offense. He has the 7th most tight end pass routes over the past 4 weeks and the 8th most tight end targets over that stretch. He's still available in 70%. I don't really know why, because I feel like people are starting like Robert Tonyan over him, and Tonyan doesn't have the opportunity that Juwan Johnson does.
Big Bob he's a dead letter. We got to move on from Big Bob.
Yeah, I think he's completely touchdown dependent. He
doesn't even score touchdowns.
Right. And so Tonyan not going to, I think Juwan Johnson's been scoring touchdowns, but he's not entirely touchdown dependent in PPR because he sees a decent amount of targets.
And before we go, we have 2 more topics. One is a surprise topic I'm foisting upon you.
Oh boy.
The Jets they're propping the door ajar to benching, I believe it's your close personal friend, Zach Wilson. And how would this change the Jets offense if we get Joe Flacco or the White Lotus, Mike White, under center for the New York Jets?
Folks, we are talking about just fantasy points galore in this offense. I mean, I'm so excited about this prospect. The Jets have a good offense. They have a pretty good offensive line. They have the kind of defense that can keep the offense on track, on script, right? I know we didn't see that much in the early season with Joe Flacco dropping back literally 70 times in a game.
No, that was weird.
Yeah, that was against the Ravens, so maybe write that one off. But both Mike White and Flacco check down to the running backs a lot, so I think Michael Carter becomes interesting in that regard. Garrett Wilson, Patrick Crane, our colleague, wrote in his walkthrough column last week that Garrett Wilson has a lot of elite metrics underlying his lack of production, really, in this horrible Jets offense. If he can get someone to get him the ball somewhat accurately, I think Garrett Wilson could be really interesting down the stretch. So yeah, definitely watch for this. And I think it means a lot to Tyler Conklin, to Garrett Wilson, Michael Carter.
Call him by his name on his birth certificate, the Conk Daddy.
I'll never say Conk Daddy.
I will say, with regards to Zach Wilson or whoever starts for the Jets at quarterback, I think the passing production is bound to increase no matter what. We have to, as much as we don't want to make excuses for Zach Wilson, in the past 4 games were at the Broncos versus the Patriots versus the Bills, at the Patriots. The Broncos and Patriots entered week 11 1-2, defensive EPA per drop back. I mean, the Bills were top 10. We're talking about genuinely elite defenses, and he's been inexcusably bad no matter how good the defense is. We're talking about a player trying to get in rhythm and against playing quite literally the best pass defenses in the NFL. They do have the Chicago Bears for week 12, who are not that, who are bottom 3 in drop back pre-VA on defense. Yeah, we got some more soft matchups coming up, like the Vikings, then the Bills again. But then the Lions, the Jags, the Seahawks, where things are bound to get better kind of no matter what, I think, with the Jets passing attack. I mean, partly because they could not get worse than 2 yards in the second half against the Patriots.
It really can't. From a real football standpoint, I don't know how they can go into week 12 with him under center, with Zach Wilson under center. From a fantasy standpoint, it really does change a lot of players' prospects in this offense.
I will say, just a real quick pointless diatribe, I thought the question was kind of dumb to Zach Wilson, basically begging him to prostrate himself before the media and apologize to his teammates.
Yeah.
It's kind of a stupid question, but you don't give that answer. I'll tell you that.
But he says no. For those who don't know, he said no. He said, "Did you let down the defense?" And the defense played incredibly well against the Patriots, and he said no.
Yeah, you don't give, even if you don't like the question, you do not give that answer.
No, you can't do it. Now, I mean, no one's expecting him to be like, yeah, no, man, I beg for their forgiveness. No one's expecting that, but I mean, just acknowledge it. The offensive players, including myself, let down a great defense who really almost carried us all the way to the finish line, and I need to do better. That's all. It would have been a non-story if you said that.
It's it was one of those, it was kind of like giving him a layup line to be a leader, and instead he just curtly said no. I don't know him personally. He does not strike me as someone who wants or can lead a team. No, and it's just already in the classic New York media fetal position and needs to be in a different market.
Yeah, he never stood a chance in that market.
No, he did not. We never stood a chance against the powers of your kicker of the week prowess. Who's the kicker of the week for week 12?
Folks, it's easy. Okay. You go to your waiver wire, you pick up Joey Sly, and you log out.
Oh my God.
That's it. That's it. It's a 3-step process, you know?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You gotta be kidding me, man.
I'm not. I'm not kidding you. They play the Falcons. The Commanders play the Falcons.
Clarify who they is, by the way.
The Commanders.
Yeah. Oh, I was thinking he was on the Panthers. That's that's Eddie Pinheiro.
No.
I was like, come on. Man.
I was wondering. I was like, what? Oh, what's the?
Yeah,
no. Yeah, Joey's
like easy top 10. Yeah.
Here's the thing. The Commanders love a few things. They love defense. They love not scoring points, and they love field goals. those are their 3 passions, and so we have to take advantage of that. And you get Joey Sly. The thing about Joey Sly, you have to remember, he's never missed arm day, which is important for a kicker. Big, massive guns on that dude. And they give him a lot of opportunity. I have all the stats in my column. I don't have them in front of me. But, folks, you're getting Joey Sly.
You're getting Joey Sly. You're winning your matchup. You're getting on the doorstep of the fantasy playoffs. That's all we're trying to do at this show here.
That's right.
Thank you so much for listening. A lot of good stuff on the website. Check out Denny's waiver wired column. Check out my early week ranks. Check out the Tuesday podcast. I'm not going to say what day today is, but check out the Tuesday podcast with Lawrence Jackson, myself, Kyle Dvorchak. Check out the National Dog Show Thursday on NBC and Peacock, noon Eastern. The dogs, I'm told the level of dogs is just off the charts.
Through the roof.
Check out USA versus England. And they're not telling me to promote the USA England on Telemundo. I just think we need to do it. USA versus England on Telemundo in Spanish if you can't listen to the American broadcasters. Maybe you won't even want to listen in English as we lose to England.
Listen, I'll have my 3,000 word column on that game
on the Baby Eagles versus the 3 Lions. Does that sound like English to you, Denny?
That makes total sense, whatever you just said.
The Baby Eagles and the 3 Lions, 2 p.m. Eastern Friday. But no, yeah, keep it locked to Rotoworld and NBC Sports Edge for all your fantasy news. For Denny Carter, I am Patrick Daugherty. Thank you so much for listening.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and Rotoworld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from Rotoworld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.